You know that old saying, ignorance is bliss? Yeah, that one. Turns out it's not just a poetic lie told by people who don't want to deal with therapy. It's a goddamn survival mechanism. And me? I found out the hard way what happens when you start scratching the surface of a life you thought you had figured out. My name's Ray. I'm 52, divorced, and until about 3 months ago, I thought my biggest problem in life was that my back hurt when I sneezed. I work in HVAC, fixing other people's air conditioning, while my own life slowly boiled to hell. American dream, right? My daughter Ellie is 21, bright, quiet, smart enough to get into UCLA, and even smarter to drop out before student. Loans could bury her alive. She said she wanted a break from the system. At the time, I thought, fine, she's young, she'll figure it out. She moved back in with me in our modest 3-bedroom house in Ohio, because why not live with the parent you barely speak to, in a town you swore you'd never come back to? I figured she was finding herself. College had worn her out, made her cynical. God knows cynicism runs in the family. We didn't talk much. Not because we fought, no, worse than that. We'd become polite, cordial, like strangers on an elevator pretending not to notice each other's scars. She was always in her room, headphones on, door locked. When she came out, it was for food, and sometimes she'd even smile. A tight, mechanical thing, like a reflex. I never questioned it until he did. Charlie, my best friend since high school. We met during detention, me for punching a kid, him for stealing soda from the teacher's lounge. He became the brother I never had. We served in the same unit, in the army. He was my best man at the wedding I should never have had. He was there when my wife left, and he was there every Sunday with cheap beer and worse advice. So when Charlie showed up at my door one Saturday afternoon, pale as a ghost, and carrying a six-pack like it was a crucifix, I knew something was off. "Ray," he said, not looking me in the eye, "we need to talk." Now, usually when a man starts a sentence like that, he's either confessing to murder or telling you he banged your wife. So I braced myself, but it wasn't my wife. "I saw something," he said, setting the beer on the counter like he needed, both hands free to ruin my life. "Online on a site." My stomach tightened. "What kind of site?" He swallowed hard. "One of those subscription ones, you know, with girls doing stuff for money." I said nothing, just stared at him. He finally met my eyes. "It's Ellie, man. She's on there." And just like that, my world cracked in half. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because my brain short-circuited and forgot how else to process reality. "You're joking." He shook his head. "I wish I was." I told him to leave, politely, like a gentleman hosting a dinner party in hell, and when he did, I locked the door behind him and stood in the kitchen for what felt like hours. I didn't look. Not right away. I couldn't, because if it was true, then everything I thought I knew about my daughter, the quiet, awkward girl who used to play Minecraft and watch Stranger Things with me, was a lie. And if it wasn't true, then Charlie was either sick or trying to destroy me. Either way, I was already bleeding inside, but I looked. Of course I did. What kind of man wouldn't? It didn't take long. A few vague searches, a Reddit thread, a couple links behind paywalls, which, let's just say, I did not click. But the preview images, Jesus Christ. It was her, my daughter, Ellie, in lingerie that barely qualified as floss, whispering things into a mic with that same crooked smile she used to have when she asked for extra dessert. My fingers went numb. My heart. That bastard tried to crawl up my throat and out the window. I closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling. Like the answers might be up there. They weren't. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with a glass of Jack Daniels and the worst kind of company, my thoughts. I kept replaying her childhood in my mind like a highlight reel from a fake movie. Her first tooth, her first fall, the Halloween she dressed as Hermione, and insisted on casting spells on everyone in the neighborhood. And now she was broadcasting herself online to strangers with usernames like MeatWizard89 and Daddy Snacks. God help me. The next morning I made eggs, bacon, coffee, the works. When she finally emerged from her room around noon, bleary-eyed and hoodie-clad, I said, "Sit." She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Okay. I didn't mention it right away. We ate in silence. I waited for her to say something, anything, a confession, a lie, an excuse, nothing. So I asked her how her projects were going. She blinked. "What? You know? Your little online business." Her face drained faster than a flushed toilet. She dropped her fork. "Who told you?" That was the moment I knew it was real. I didn't even have to answer. Dad, listen, Save it, I said. I wasn't angry, I wasn't even disappointed. I was hollow, like a scarecrow, with PTSD. "Do you need money?" I asked. "No, it's not about that." "Then what the hell is it about, Ellie?" She stared at her lap. "It makes me feel in control, like I'm not just someone's daughter or someone's ex or someone's failure. It's mine. I own it." I didn't have a response to that, because in some sick, twisted way, I understood. This world eats young women alive unless they find a way to monetize the consumption. Still, I couldn't unsee it. And worse, Charlie had seen it too. That bastard had looked at her, at my daughter, in a way no friend should ever look. And that's when something inside me snapped, quietly, permanently. This wasn't just about Ellie anymore. This wasn't about shame or parenting or the internet. This was about betrayal, from both of them. I poured myself another drink and smiled at Ellie across the table. "It's fine," I said. "Really, you're an adult. You make your own choices." She looked relieved, stupidly relieved. But me, I was already planning, already thinking. Because if Charlie thought he could look at my daughter like that, if he thought he could warn me like he was doing me a favor, then he had another thing coming. You see, the thing about betrayal is, it teaches you how to be patient. And I was about to become a very, very patient man. After the breakfast that ruined my soul, Ellie went back to her room, probably to live stream her cleavage to men named Todd in North Dakota. And I went to war, not with her. No, she was grown. Technically, legally, spiritually, who knows? But she hadn't done anything illegal. Immoral, sure. Humiliating, absolutely. But illegal? Not quite. So I did the only thing left for a man with a dead heart and a working brain. I redirected the rage toward Charlie, my best friend, remember? The man who had seen my daughter's account? And don't let him fool you. He didn't stumble upon it. No, this wasn't a case of oops, wrong click. This was intentional. He had searched, watched, probably favorited it, the sick bastard. And then he had the nerve to come to me with his crocodile concern. I wasn't buying the act. I know. Charlie, I've known him since he was a greasy 17-year-old lying about sleeping with the lunch lady. The man wouldn't walk a stranger's dog without asking for gas money. Altruism, not in his vocabulary. If he told me, it was either guilt or leverage. Either way, I wasn't letting it slide. But I didn't confront him. Oh no, not yet. First, I gathered intel. I started with the basics: Facebook, LinkedIn, the soft targets. His work, still at the construction firm, a middle manager barely clinging to relevance. His wife, Mandy, still putting inspirational quotes on her Instagram, with filters that made her look like a wax version of herself. Their son, Tyler, private school, baseball team, and a smug little punk who looked like he paid for lunch with his father's guilt. But then I found something juicier. Remember when Charlie and I started a small home renovation gig back in 2011? I bowed out. After the divorce and a hernia that made lifting drywall feel like childbirth. But Charlie, he kept it running on the side. Cash jobs, no paperwork. Except, turns out he never filed the taxes correctly. Not in 2015, not in 2017, and certainly not in 2020, when he lied on his COVID relief application. You'd think a guy who watches women on the internet would know better than to post every business transaction on Facebook Marketplace. With a few anonymous screenshots and a carefully worded email, I made sure the IRS got a friendly little tip from a concerned citizen. Then I sent a similar package to the Department of Labor, just to spice things up. Still, that wasn't personal enough. I needed Charlie to feel it. So I went deeper. Mandy, sweet Mandy, had no idea her husband had a burner phone. I did. Found it in his garage 2 years ago, charging behind a shelf full of WD-40 and regrets. I had chalked it up to porn. Turns out it was worse. You see, Charlie had a girlfriend, 26, tattooed, worked at a vape shop. Her name was... wait, Candy, actually. And no, she didn't spell it with a K. That would have been too classy. They met on Tinder, of course. And I don't know what's more pathetic, that he was cheating on Mandy with someone who quoted Rick and Morty, or that he sent her money every Friday like she was his landlord. I took screenshots, dozens, of texts, of cash transfers, of selfies. She'd sent him with captions like "Urso Daddy lol." It was all there, preserved forever in the cloud like a memorial to his midlife crisis. It came during Tyler's birthday party, backyard BBQ, full suburban glory, Charlie grilling burgers like a man who still thought he had a future, Mandy wearing her apron like a domestic war medal, kids screaming, adults pretending they liked each other. The American dream, deep-fried and dusted with lies. I showed up with a bottle of bourbon and a smile so fake it could have run for office. "Ray," Charlie shouted, "glad you made it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, shaking his hand with the same grip I'd used to strangle a snake. We drank. We laughed. We swapped stories about high school, like we weren't both miserable sacks of broken testosterone. Then, when everyone was settled, I called for a toast. To Tyler, I said, may he grow up to be better than his father. People laughed. Charlie smiled. Mandy raised her glass, and then I pulled out the envelope. "What's that?" Charlie asked. "Oh, just some memories," I said, handing it to Mandy. "Photos, really. Charlie's been meaning to show you for a while." She opened it, and everything stopped. The photos, the texts, the receipts, the nudes. I had printed them all. Glossy paper, high resolution, color-corrected for maximum emotional damage. Mandy's face went pale, then red, then the color of wet ashes. The silence was deafening. Then came the slap, not from Mandy, from Tyler, who had somehow caught a glimpse and screamed, "Dad, what the hell?" Before punching Charlie in the ribs like a Little League champ, Charlie tried to stammer something, but Mandy was already walking toward the house, envelope in hand, rage in her step. Tyler followed, yelling, and all the guests just watched. Stood there, sipping my bourbon. Charlie looked at me like a dying animal. "Why?" he croaked, and I leaned in, smiling. "You looked at my daughter like she was meat. You consumed her, Charlie. Don't you ever pretend it was for me. This was for her. He started crying. Good, because now he got to feel it. The shame, the loss, the rot. He got to wake up every day knowing he destroyed his own life the same way he helped ruin mine. And the best part? I wasn't even finished yet. You'd think, after nuking Charlie's backyard life party like it was Normandy, I'd feel something. Relief, maybe. Closure? Nope. Just emptiness. The kind that buzzes in your ears when you're alone and the fridge hums too loud. The kind that makes bourbon taste like tap water. I ruined his life, yes. He lost his wife. His son won't speak to him. And Candy, sweet dumb Candy, posted a video crying on TikTok about toxic sugar daddies while holding a vape and a cat. He also got a lovely letter from the IRS with the kind of language that makes your bowels loosen involuntarily. But me, I still had a daughter upstairs selling feet pics to strangers in exchange for comments like, "Step on me, goddess." A daughter who barely looked me in the eye anymore unless she needed money for protein powder or ring lights. A daughter who, in her own words, was owning her power by showing her nipples to people with usernames like BeefDaddy69. Yeah, power. I wanted to believe this was a phase, that one day she'd wake up, remember she was a person and not a brand, and delete her accounts. But deep down, I knew. This was her now. This was who she'd chosen to be. And no matter how many Charlie-level cockroaches I torched along the way, I couldn't scrub that truth off my bones, so I sank, quietly, bitterly, into that numb little pit reserved for men who are no longer needed. Until something happened. One afternoon I was walking back from the grocery store, milk, eggs, beer, the usual sad dad starter pack, when I saw a guy leaning against my porch rail. Baseball cap, oversized hoodie, smug little rat face, like he'd just come from filming a prank video at a Walmart. "Hey," he said when he saw me. "You Ellie's dad?" My spine did this thing where it tried to crawl out of my body. "Who's asking?" he smirked. "Name's Kyle. We, collab sometimes." Collab. What a beautiful little euphemism for ejaculated on camera with your daughter. I didn't drop the groceries. I didn't punch him. I just smiled. "Nice to meet you, Kyle," I said. "You thirsty?" He followed me inside like the moron he was. Sat at my kitchen table, legs spread like he owned the place, tapping on his phone while I poured him some iced tea and fantasized about the various ways I could end his existence without leaving forensic evidence. "You okay, man?" he asked, after a minute. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I have," I replied, setting the glass down. She was wearing my daughter's body. He blinked, clearly not paid enough attention in his one semester of community college philosophy. "So," I said, sitting across from him, "what do you want?" "Well," he said, leaning in like we were frat brothers, "I'm working on a new tier for Ellie's subs. Premium stuff, BTS content, pillow talk, some fetish stuff. We want to shoot here, like authentic, right? Dad's house, homey vibes, fans eat that shit up." I stared at him. This parasite wanted to film a sex tape in my house. My house. Where Ellie learned to walk. Where I taught her how to ride a bike. Where her mother used to burn pancakes on Sundays and laugh like it mattered. "You don't mind, right?" he asked, sipping the tea. "It's just business." I nodded. "Oh, I don't mind." And that's when I decided I was done playing nice. I waited a few days, just long enough for him to think I was on board. Ellie was thrilled. "You're finally respecting my hustle," she said. I wanted to tell her that pimps respect hustle too, but I smiled instead. Even helped them set up their little homey bedroom shoot. Then I made my own plans. You see, I still had access to Ellie's Wi-Fi, her cloud backups, her banking info. She wasn't the only one who'd done some collabing lately. I installed cameras everywhere, hidden, high-res, some in the smoke detector, one in a vent, one inside the TV, not just for the sake of having their angles, but mine. Insurance. And on the day of the big shoot, I made sure the house was empty, except for one unexpected visitor, Detective Monroe, a friend of mine from back in my I almost became a cop before I drank my way out of the academy phase. She owed me a favor, and now was payback time. Technically, no laws were being broken. Technically, but I'd done my homework. Kyle, it turned out, had a little history. Not criminal yet, but close. Allegations of coercion, underage girls in his DMs, a few Reddit threads that painted a pretty disturbing picture. Enough to justify a very uncomfortable conversation with local law enforcement, especially if someone accidentally emailed a compiled PDF of everything to his sponsors, payment platforms, and, oh, his mother. So while Kyle and Ellie were mid-setup, boom, cops, warrants, devices confiscated, no one got arrested that day, but reputations, careers, burned. Ellie lost her accounts within a week, banned. Payment processors cut her off. The fans vanished. Kyle ghosted her, probably, busy trying to delete hard drives and pray to lawyers. And me, I didn't gloat, didn't scream. Just watched my daughter crumble under the weight of a world she thought she could control. Watched her cry, scream, blame everyone but herself. Watched her move out, back in with her mom, leaving behind the silence she'd made louder than any sound. She hasn't spoken to me since. I don't blame her. She thinks I ruined her life. But I didn't. I just stopped pretending she hadn't already ruined it herself. And Charlie? Last I heard, he's living in a rented trailer with a mattress on the floor and a microwave that won't close all the way. Mandy cleaned him out in the divorce. Tyler changed his last name. Candy posted screenshots of his "I miss you" texts on Instagram with the caption UW. Sometimes justice looks like a courtroom. Sometimes it looks like a man eating Chef Boyardee with his fingers in a parking lot.